Do you know the feeling of standing in your own way and somehow always sabotaging yourself and preventing yourself from becoming a happy person? In today's video, I'll tell you about the 10 biggest happiness killers that can ruin your life. Really, mess it up. And if you pay attention to this and manage to turn it around for yourself, then nothing will stand in the way of your happiness. Welcome to Soul Tapping. Today, I'll share with you a list of the 10 biggest happiness killers that prevent you from becoming a happy person. Point 1 is judgments. We humans tend to constantly evaluate everything, categorizing everything as right or wrong, good or bad, but that's not always useful. For example, if you don't dare to do something, even though you would really love to do it. You would like to paint a picture, sing in a choir, or do something else. But you judge yourself again, thinking, I'm not good enough at this, it should be better. Things like that are absolute happiness killers. If you have the urge to do something like painting or singing, then do it. Don't let yourself be stopped by judging it as bad, or by others. Judging others as bad, everything others do, and all the gossip and how people get upset with each other, these are all patterns of judgment. And if you just let go of them yourself and simply take things as they are and as they come, without judging them, then you are free. Then, nothing really needs to burden you anymore, and you can simply be yourself. So, that's a very important point. Try not to judge anything in the world anymore. Not easy, but it can be done. Point 2 is comparisons. If you constantly compare yourself to others, you can only lose. Because we tend to. There's this saying, the neighbor's grass is always greener. So, we tend to always see the great things in others, that they have everything. And with ourselves, we only see what we can't do. And that we have something else or can do something else, we don't see that at all. So if you compare yourself to others, you make yourself miserable because you can only lose. Just focus on yourself, look at your own progress, look at what you maybe couldn't do 1 or 2 years ago. In comparison, if you compare at all, then do it with your own past, because then you see how you have developed. That you might not be as far along as someone else is not a big deal. For example, the marathon runner at kilometer 30 is not a better runner than the one at kilometer 10. They just started running earlier. So don't compare yourself to others, you're only making yourself unhappy by doing so. Point 3. Envy and jealousy. It goes hand in hand a bit. Yes, if you don't allow others their happiness, then that's the ultimate happiness killer for yourself. Yes, so it's also about appreciation. When you start to appreciate others, you can also appreciate yourself better. And you also receive appreciation from others. So envy, jealousy, and resentment, and things like that. You're not harming the other person, but yourself. Just make that clear to yourself. So, you make yourself happy when you can truly allow others their happiness. And if you still have problems with that, then it would be a topic to work on. Point 4. Perfectionism and fear of failure also go hand in hand with this. So the fear that something won't go as you imagined. The fear that you won't manage it as well as you imagined. The fear of failing, it all plays into this. I've also talked about this often in my videos because perfectionism is extremely widespread. Not just among people with depression, but in general. In our performance-oriented society, it's just a huge deal. And it's worth looking into whether you can work on it if you're affected by perfectionism. That you really start practicing not being perfect in small things where it doesn't matter. Depending on what it is for you, for example, it could be when you have the urgent need to always tidy up and keep everything in order, that you just leave the drying rack standing there, even if it looks ugly right now. Yeah, then it just stands there now. Or something is just lying on the floor or whatever, just practice it. delivering something that isn't perfect and not worrying if you feel like, oh dear, someone else might be totally disappointed or get a completely wrong impression of me. Forget about it, it doesn't matter. That's not so important right now. What's important is that you become happy. That's much, much more important than someone else thinking well of you. Okay, then we have point 5. That's the feeling of being a victim. That's a total happiness killer because if you feel like a victim and keep saying how terrible your life is because of others and their misbehavior, and what so-and-so did to you, whether in your childhood or currently, you cut yourself off from your power and your ability to cope with life. You make yourself utterly unhappy when you keep shifting the responsibility for your suffering onto others. It doesn't help. You have to forgive, you have to let it go, otherwise you can't become happy. As a victim, you can't become happy, and being a victim is something that happens here in the mind. So, feeling like a victim afterward for something from the past is a decision you can make. And I can really tell you, from my own experience, the day I decided not to be a victim anymore, it gave me so much new vitality. And it feels so good not to be a victim anymore. No matter what was done to you, it may be that it happened. Yes, it was certainly terrible, I don't want to downplay it. But now it's over. And you regain your strength when you stop being a victim. When you overcome that victim feeling. It's just a feeling. You are not really a victim. Because in reality, we are all creators of our reality. We create our reality based on our own thoughts and feelings. And if you engage with this and keep reminding yourself of it, then you will also get out of the victim feeling and return to your strength. The 6th point is called pessimism. Worrying. Constantly letting your imagination run wild about all the terrible things that could happen and that nothing will work out anyway. And out of sheer fear that it won't work, out of fear of disappointment, you anticipate it and try to get used to the thought that it won't work out anyway. But the thing is, these pessimistic thoughts lead to it not working out. So pessimism, it actually brings you no advantages. People do this because they believe they would then be prepared for anything, and the disappointment would be smaller if it doesn't work out. But that's not the case. That doesn't work. So if you, how should I say, a no, you already have, no, how was it again? A no, you already have, yes, you can get. So, if it does work out after all, then you've had so much stress that wasn't necessary at all. And if you just say, okay, I'm open to the possibility that it might work out after all, then you feel better. Unless this sentence brings up a lot in you, then you can work on it. So all these self-reflection stories are always good for making you aware of things about yourself. Write them down. So, when you tell yourself, I'm open to the possibility that this situation will be great, and there's this loud inner resistance, like no, 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 definitely not, then you can work on it, write it down. Yes. So pessimism can be overcome, this constant worrying can be overcome. It takes a bit of effort and perseverance to really learn to control your thoughts and interrupt yourself. To keep catching yourself as you start worrying about the future again and immediately say stop. Stop, I will no longer think about the negative future, because I don't want to manifest and create it that way. I actually want it to be different. Focus on how you want it to be, not how you don't want it to be. And you can practice that. So sometimes at the beginning, it's still like the thoughts take on a life of their own and keep presenting it to you. What you fear for the future, but you can learn to overcome it. Point 8 is called negative focus. If you have a glass that is half filled with water, then it's your personal decision whether you see this glass of water as half full or half empty. So, two people receive exactly the same amount of water. One says, wow, a half-full glass of water, great. Now I can quench my thirst. And the other says, that's a half-empty glass. Water, great, someone has already drunk from it. Someone has already taken something from me. Great, I knew the whole world is against me. Just as an example. This is, of course, an exaggerated example, but it is similar to what happens to many depressed people. They view the world. And you need to realize that you always have different options. Have a choice in how you want to view the world. Every time you catch yourself complaining about how little you get and how bad everything is in your life, can you catch yourself doing that? And then say, stop, I'm going to flip the coin and look at what I already have. So, if you keep complaining about what you don't have, it won't lead to you getting more, quite the opposite. You will reinforce it in your life. Everything you focus your attention on, you reinforce in your life. And if you train yourself to always look at what you already have, then you slowly reach a state where you feel, wow, how great, what I already have. I can really be grateful for that. So you learn through gratitude for what you already have. You learn to focus on what you receive. And by doing so, you attract more and more of what you want into your life. Yes, that's how these universal laws work. You should definitely look into this. If you're the kind of person who always sees the glass as half empty. Point 9 is called suppression and procrastination. That takes energy. Suppressing, whether it's feelings or maybe anger, towards your partner or anyone else. And you have a huge fear of disharmony, and that there might be arguments or that you won't be loved anymore. And then you suppress it all and push it down and down and down. That makes you sick. It takes energy and is a total happiness killer. Procrastination is also part of it. So procrastination is like a ball and chain, like a massive heavy package that you constantly drag behind you. Always like, I really should do it, but I don't want to see it. I really should do it, but I don't want to see it. Yes, that's a total happiness killer. Do the things that are unpleasant for you immediately. Make a list of things that are urgent, that are important, and in both combinations. So things that are important and urgent. Things that are important but not so urgent. Things that are urgent but not so important. And the fourth one. Now I'm lost. You know what I mean. Yes. So, procrastination is a big, fat topic that can really ruin your happiness. And suppressing everything you don't want to see, it just doesn't work in the long run. And that's why you should address this issue if you're dealing with it. And yes, point 10. And I think this is something that affects all of us, whether depressed or not, is the fear of criticism and the fear of what others might think of you. So, this has already been hinted at in the other points. But if you constantly worry about what others might think of you or that others might criticize you, then you keep tripping yourself up. You really ruin your own happiness if you don't listen to yourself, but always to others. If you constantly seek advice, even for small things, like not knowing whether to buy this sweater or that sweater, and then you have to ask a bunch of women first. Or before you make any decision, you first have to ask 10 other people what they think about it. Just because you're afraid of doing something wrong where someone else might later say, well, great, you didn't listen to me, or what is that? You can already notice it in such small things, in everyday trivialities, that you are completely limiting yourself. It would be much better to learn to listen to yourself and feel which of these two sweaters you actually like best. I don't give a damn right now what people will say about this sweater. Just out of sheer fear that someone might say, what a weird sweater you bought. To choose the other one because of that. Yeah, well, that's a happiness killer, a total happiness killer. And this affects so many people. It's naturally somewhat innate in us humans that it's incredibly important to us what others think of us, because it is connected to security and belonging to a herd. This has been programmed into us since the Stone Age. In our genes, that our survival is only ensured if we are members of the group. Because if you get kicked out, you won't survive in the wilderness, in the Stone Age. That's how it was. And that's why it's very clear that it's important to us what others think of us. But you really need to become aware of how realistic it is that you won't survive. Just because someone else thinks your sweater is silly or criticizes you otherwise, how you're criticized. It's also about showing yourself showing yourself as you are. Not pretending anymore just to please others. This is a typical depressive pattern, especially in female depression. Women often bend and pretend out of sheer fear of not pleasing someone else, and then they adapt. The main thing is they somehow get through life, twisting and turning, as long as they don't bump into anything. That's a classic happiness killer. With that, you're standing in your own way, and if you're affected by this, then you should start dealing with it and learn. Starting again, with small things where nothing is at stake, learn and practice. Standing by yourself and just ignoring the criticism of others. Okay, those were the 10 biggest happiness killers. There are certainly more. But these are the first 10 that came to my mind spontaneously. If you liked the video, feel free to like it. You can join my Facebook group or watch the other videos on my channel or check out my website at www.seelenklopfen.de. And if you would like to work with me in a coaching session, feel free to contact me. All the best, yours, Sabine.